Good morning, my name is Amanda Blair and I am honoured to be here today acting in the role of the MC at this very important event, a level playing field gender equality in leadership summit. I'd like to welcome you all here today as public sector employees and again reinforce how important it is that you lead the way for this fine state. A fine state that was the first state to allow women to vote, the first state to have a female police officer, the first state to have a female member of parliament and the first state to decriminalise homosexuality. We have led the way in many areas of social change and it's really important. I'm just going to call it, I don't care if this is a lie, well, I think we're the first state to actually hold a summit like this. So well done, South Australia. It's awesome. As you know, the government here in South Australia is the largest employee body and that's why it's so important that you lead the way and also that you reflect the perspectives of the taxpayers, of course, and as we all know, just as many men as women pay taxes. So I think it's very important that we are represented at the highest echelons of the public service. I would like to today talk to you, or in fact welcome you, and also welcome the Senior Management Council of the State Government of South Australia, the Institute of Public Administration Australia, IPAA members and partners. Thank you so much for coming here today, and I would also like to acknowledge the efforts of the Office of the Public Sector, along with IPAA and the Australian and New Zealand School of Government, ANSOG, I love all these little names, for collaborating to bring this event to you today. I would also like to thank our impressive and distinguished speakers, many of whom I'm really looking forward to hearing from. Minister Susan Close, the wonderful Christine Nixon, Martin Parkinson, Rabia Siddiq, Irma Ranieri, of course, who's doing fantastic jobs you wear many hats within government, and Anna Lee. They are all going to be talking today and entertaining us. We also have a tremendous debate after lunch as well, which I'm sure you're going to enjoy. Just looking around the Adelaide Oval, you may have noticed the iconic scoreboard. The scoreboard today has been changed. It says, "Gender equality in leadership, how's that?" So that is fantastic. It's just a shame though when I look around the Adelaide Oval that I just see the names of blokes on all the stands, almost as if we women have had absolutely stuff all to do with sport. But anyway, that's fine. Enough of my whinging. You can come and talk to me anytime over the lunch break and I'm happy to give you an earful. Today, if in fact you are a social media hound, you can tweet widely and freely. And isn't that exciting for a government employee to hear that? You can just tweet. We think it's okay. Our hashtag is hashtag a level playing field and also a hashtag because it's 2016 and you'll know what that refers to coming up shortly. Before we go any further though, just a few housekeeping notes. We've all got fuzzy hair and that's because it's been very humid over the last few days. That's the first housekeeping note. If your hair just continues to go fuzzy for the rest of the day, don't worry, we're all in the same boat. We're all hating it. Hashtag first world problem. The toilets, but it's a problem though, isn't it? It is a problem. The toilets are located, as you see my bingo wings flapping, the toilets are located out here on the door to your left-hand side, and in case of an emergency there'll be big bells and sirens that will be ringing. Please don't look for me for any assistance whatsoever because I'll just be running down the stairs away from the scene of the disaster. So just follow the staff, they'll help you out. Before we go any further, of course, we must do a traditional Ghana welcome, and of course I'm delighted to welcome to the stage to perform that Tamika Chantrell.
Yangina Miena, Matiyanke Ghana Miena, Manina Budni Ghana Yata Ana. On behalf of the Ghana people, I welcome you all to Ghana country. Thank you.
You did a great job, Tamika. Thank you for welcoming us to your country. I now would like to introduce the first speaker for the day. She is a champion of gender equality and represents, of course, women in our cabinet. Her name is the Honourable Susan Close. She's the Minister for Education and Child Development, Minister for Higher Education and Skills. She was first elected as the State Member for Port Adelaide in February 2012. She was appointed Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister for Public Sector in 2013. Following the 2014 state election, Dr Close was appointed Minister for Manufacturing, Innovation and Trade and Minister for the Public Sector. She was appointed Minister for Education and Child Development in February 2015 and has retained the public sector portfolio. She has also chaired 2 Parliamentary Select Committee inquiries, and before entering, I like the long biog, no, because it's important, Minister, that everyone knows how impressive you are. Before entering Parliament, she was an executive in the public service and previously worked at Adelaide University as Director of Student Services. So please welcome the very highly qualified and very well versed in the public sector, Minister Susan Close.
Sorry about that. I nearly fell asleep myself. I can't imagine what it's like for all of you. And also, by the way, I'm no longer the Minister for the Public Sector. No, that broke my heart a little bit. I'm not. So, good morning, everybody. I'm so delighted to be here and to represent the government welcoming you today and thanking you for spending time talking about such an important issue. I addressed last night a much smaller gathering, but absolutely heartwarming. It was at Lefevre High School, where we were giving an award that's been given since 1996 for the student who gets the highest mark in SACE, in the end of high school, for women's studies. And we were giving that award to a Lefevre High School student last night. And it was a wonderful experience to see a very young person who had chosen to devote some of her very precious study time to thinking about gender, to thinking about equality. And while I gave a speech, and the person from the union, the women's officer from the union who gave a history of the Jean Pavey Award, Jean Pavey fought very hard and successfully in the end for female teachers to be paid as much as male teachers. But the speech by the young woman who won the prize was remarkable. And in some ways it was sad. And what I mean by that is that when I give speeches, particularly to young people, as I often do as the Minister for Education, I like to think that the message that I have to say about gender equity is becoming less relevant for them. And what she said is, no, it isn't. It's just as deep a problem, just as deep a fight as it ever was. Now, that puts a lot of pressure on us to continue to fight. So the big debates that were had about pay, about a woman and a man deserving and receiving the same pay, they may be legally in the past, legislatively in the past, but the idea of women actually earning as much as men is very much in the present. And not only is that true across society, it is absolutely still true in our public sector. And that's because men are still overrepresented in the higher ranks and women are underrepresented. Now, we've made huge strides in South Australia. We've set our targets and we've made huge strides to succeed, but we are still not there. Now, what's the problem with that? Well, there are many problems. One is it's just a simple matter of justice. But the truth is that women are as good as men. It's a really obvious thing to say. And yet if that were taken to be true, if that were understood to be true, then we would see equal numbers. And by not seeing equal numbers, what we're seeing is a lack of capitalisation on the intellectual contribution that can be made by women. We are missing out on talent by not having women sufficiently well represented. And then we have to ask ourselves, well, why is that? It's no longer legislative. There are some acts that we still need to fix up, and we're going through that process right now in Parliament in terms of the language that we use and the recognition of gender identity. But it is now far more about how we choose to behave, how we choose to value people and recognise people and support people. And what I'm pleased to see here is that we have such a reasonable percentage of men here. because this isn't just down to the women in the public service. This is down to all of us in the public service. It is down to people recognising that just selecting someone who is like you is not going to always give you the most meritorious candidate, that we do need to recognise difference. Otherwise, we just replicate what is ever was, will ever be. We also need for the women to step up. Now, I reckon all the women in this room have done that. But what I try to tell the young women who I speak to as Education Minister is that we must grab this. You cannot sit back. You can't let that voice in your head that tells you that you're not good enough, that you're not qualified, that things might go wrong. And I still have that. I was awake for an hour last night critiquing my performance in question time yesterday. But it's not good enough to do that. That holds you back. We must embrace our potential and apply for those jobs, put ourselves forward. And similarly as women, we have to look after each other. We have to step up and see that the sisterhood still needs our support. And if we are in a position of authority, in a position of power, that we use that to promote gender equality, that we do that consciously. I'd like to, before I close, just refer to one highly specific issue and very sad issue that nonetheless remains one of the reasons that we're not seeing full equality in this country, and that is the way in which we manage domestic violence. We all know that there are people who are suffering from domestic violence, whether it's actual physical violence, whether it's belittling, whether it's controlling, that are holding people back, and almost exclusively that's women. We all, men, women, neighbours, relatives, workmates, have a responsibility to step in and support women in that situation. Because while that's still going on, we will be so far from equality, so far from fully embracing all people, that I despair for the next generation. So we must step up and deal with that, so that the young women, like the young woman I met last night who won the award, can really step into a world that enables her to reach her full potential. So thank you for being part of this. Thank you for showing the leadership that I know is always in the state public service. And I hope today is interesting, stimulating and inspiring. Thank you.